It's soft lunch. That's better than any I've seen. Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for coming. Thanks to Paul for letting us into his beautiful home. I appreciate you doing this. So I'm Michael Johnson, and I'm running for Alameda County Superior Court Judge, seat number 12. I tend to pace a little bit, so I'm tired of sitting behind a bench. I'm just going to walk around. Let me give you a little bit of my background, what I'm about in this campaign, and what I propose to do. I was born in Mississippi. I came out here, when I was 3, with my mom and my grandmother, raised by them. We moved to Central California, Bakersfield, California. Was raised there for a while, went to college in Santa Barbara and law school at McGeorge in Sacramento. Came out here and then I met Paul and several others and started my practice. I was a plaintiff's and defendant's trial attorney, hearing all different types of matters, both personal injury, small business, you have it. I got recruited to AT&T shortly thereafter, and then I started to be a trial lawyer for them for a while, doing all different types of cases for them. I moved over to the consumer side, where I did cell phones, DSL, remember DSL? I don't hear any complaints. Advertising and whatnot. And then I had a knack for the business side. So I said, let me go over to government, education, and medical. So for like Kaiser, Sutter, Dignity Health, I was the attorney for those large contracts. I did a lot of FirstNet, which, as you know, for our first responders, gives them a little extra bandwidth so that they can help us in times of emergency. I did a lot of those contracts. And then I got appointed to Warner Brothers Discovery, doing technology contracts by the General Counsel. So I did a lot of streaming. We saw a lot of streaming during COVID, right? A lot of sports broadcasting and whatnot. But during that time, during my entire career, actually starting at the beginning, I did a lot of public service. And that's one of the ways where I kind of cemented my relationship with Paul. We were involved with Charles Houston Bar Association. Many of you might know that organization. It's an African-American legal organization bent on helping those from disenfranchised community, both from a civil rights standpoint, as well as a community service standpoint. We were on the board. We did a lot of work in the community with them. I was also in, and I still am in, Hunter Blackman in the Bay Area, doing the same type of activities throughout the community. I had the honor and the privilege to be on the board of directors for the Alameda County Bar Association and became their president. I also was the president for their Volunteer Legal Services Corporation, which again is a public service and fundraising entity of the Alameda County Bar Association. I was appointed to be also on the California State Bar's Judicial Nominees Evaluation Committee, which means the governor decides who she or he, in this case it's a he, wants to be a judge, and we vet them for the governor. So I've had a lot of experience on a lot of different boards, but I think the most recent and probably the most significant experience is my experience as a temporary judge. I've been doing that for the last 5 years in family law, civil harassment, small claims, and traffic. And I've got to see a lot of people in the community. I've had a chance to, I was going to ask, how many people here by a show of hands know about traffic court and had somebody that they know go to traffic school? Not you.
Go to traffic school. I know a friend.
I think we're spending so many times using But I say that because even something as simple as traffic court crosses the spectrum with everybody. You see everybody from every walk of life. And that's important because why? Being a judge, you have the opportunity to affect people's lives. And I found that I had developed a great skill set for that, not only a compassion for people, but to understand where they're coming from. This is a huge county. Believe me, I've driven up and down it for the last several months. It's a huge county with such a diverse population. You have 30 plus languages spoken, 10 plus Asian alone. You need funding for the courts, you need interpreters for the courts, you need staff for the courts. So what I've tried to do in my individual capacity as a lawyer and as a temporary judge is help get funding for the courts, because we need that. It helps with public service, it helps with self-help, it helps with everything. So that's one of my main goals should I be successful as a judge. So what's my philosophy? Well, if you've seen my signs, if you've looked at my literature, if you talk to me for a minute, it's fundamental fairness for everybody. I think we're lacking that. You know, I do, and I think what people need to know is the court is not a place for politics. The court is not a place for your own political bent or your own political agenda. It's a place for fairness. That means whoever comes in front of you, they know that they may like the decision, they may not like the decision, but they're left with the impression that they were treated fairly, right? And I've said this before, but people often don't remember what you say or what you do, but they always remember how you make them feel, right? And so I think what we need to do is get back to that, not only with electeds, but with judges. If you don't have confidence in the court, if you don't have faith in the court, I think that puts a huge dent in society. Now, my opponent doesn't feel that way. He has aligned himself with a political figure. That is one thing that we're not supposed to do, ever. So, I'm one for catchphrases, but was it Maya Angelou who said, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. So, I've shown you who I am, and he's shown you who he is, and I'm asking you to make the right decision, and please vote for me. Thank you.
All right.
I have a question,
Yes,
if I
please,
might,
Mr. Gardner. Go ahead.
for the judge. I would like to know
Yes.
that if you are elected, that the black boy in East Oakland gets no greater a sentence than the white boy in Piedmont for the same type of offense.
I get that question almost every day. Thank you very much, sir. What was your first name?
It is Henry.
Hi,
This
Henry.
is the
Thank you.
Henry
Oh,
Gardner.
I'm learning.
The beloved Henry Gardner.
Here's what I can tell you about that, and for those of you who've seen me before, my answer has not changed. To the extent that that is a policy or political question, I can't answer it, but what I can tell you is this. Whoever sits in front of me or stands in front of me, right, will be treated fairly and equally under the law every time. Now, the law gives judges what they call judicial discretion, right? The judge can depend, she or he can look at the facts of any particular case and determine whether, for lack of a better term, the punishment meets the crime, right? You're not supposed to have a preconceived notion as to how you're gonna deal with every incident every time. That's not fairness, that's not justice. That's a predetermined outcome in your mind. Judges are not supposed to do that. Is that helpful?
Yes, except that when the judgment is handed down, and I see not just for one judge, but across the system, the pattern of the white boy in Piedmont, whose family is very wealthy, can bring in all kinds of expert witnesses, etc., etc. It's the same kind of offense. And the poor black kid with a public defender, and no offense to a public defender, this one gets a suspended sentence, same type of crime. I know circumstances are different somewhat, but there is a pattern in the judicial system, and I call it the color of justice. I give a speech on that. That's enough.
No. Let me respond to that really quick. You've never had me on the bench.
I beg your pardon?
You've never had
Oh, yeah, no, but I want you on the bench.
So I can't talk about
But I got
what
a
you may
tough
have
one for you,
experienced before.
But you get the point.
Yes, sir.
You all get the point.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, Michael,
Yes, sir.
we were talking a little bit when Dana was giving her pitch about resources.
Yeah.
There used to be more robust, in my mind, from a layman's standpoint, like diversion programs
Right.
and whatnot, so that there's opportunities for like first-time offenders and that sort of thing to maybe not get the full brunt of the justice, you know, if there are mitigating circumstances or they have redeeming qualities that the judge says, I think I wanna give this person another shot. Are we resourced enough from your perspective? I know you just only been on the bench in a very limited capacity for a short period of time, relatively speaking. Do we need to, does that need to be funded more? What are you seeing? Are there enough programs? Are they diverse programs depending upon the situation? Can you speak to that? I
Sure.
don't know how much you know about that.
Just a little bit, but I can.
Okay.
Great question, Paul. So it all comes down to funding, right? As I told you before, I was on the committee who worked with the Supreme Court and the legislature on trying to get more funding to the courts. That's bottom line. That translates to clerks, interpreters,
Yes.
programs, self-help, judges, right? So that's number one. So the more funding we can get, I'm not saying taxpayer dollars, I'm saying the more funding from the legislature you can get, the better suited the court can be to address the needs of the public. That's number one. Number two, there are programs, right? It depends on what's in front of the judge. All right, everybody knows mental health is a huge issue in this county, in the world really, but in this county. I think the CARE Act just came into effect in January, which is an alternative mental program for offenders. So it depends on what's in front of the judge, right? If the facts of the case state that this person would be better benefited from a program such as the CARE Act, for example, and the facts warrant it, it's up to the judge to decide whether she or he will grant that, as opposed to incarceration or whatnot, right? So it's a tool. It's a club in the golf bag, right? That's what it is. But it depends on the case, right? So on this side, you can't say I'm going to be this way no matter what. You can't do that except for be fair no matter what. But on this side, you want to be agile enough to be able to adapt to the situation that you have, and that's where I am. Does that help?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Do we need to, how do we get the resources? Do we need to go to our representatives and, like, how can the courts make us more aware, like the lay people, what the need is and how to go and get that? Like, do we call, who do we, the state, do I need to get Gavin on the phone? Like, what do we need to do to make sure?
Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
and how do we get it started? Like, I don't think people know what the need is and how to advocate for that, or to get people whose job it is to lobby for
Right.
more robust diversion programs and stuff. Do you have a sense of what
I do.
we can do?
Sure, clearly you're electeds, right? Above supervisor level, so I'm talking senators, things of that nature, anyone in the California legislature, Attorney General's office, right? Bonta's office always helps to facilitate that type of funding. And then certain, obviously, private parties who have, political influence or whatnot. And then that committee that I'm on helps advocate for that on a ledge day.
Okay. Who else has a question?
One question, then you, lady first.
Sure.
Yes.
Thank you. Judge Michael, I'm really impressed with programs that allow elected officials and appointed officials too to go out into the community to speak to our young people. So before they come before you on the bench, they know what is possible. They can see that there are people who look like them
Yes.
on the bench. Coffee with a Cop, for example, is very helpful, I think. The D-Cell program where kids can go in and play basketball, hang out with county sheriffs. Is there a possibility that when you're on the bench, once you're on the bench, you would be able to meet with young black people particularly, and young people in general, to talk to them about careers, futures on the bench or in law?
Great question. Great question. 100%. I do that now, and I'll definitely keep doing it then. Through 100 Black Men, I mentor at Oakland Tech as well as De Anza High. Through Charles Houston, we reach out to the community all the time. You can't beat it if you don't see it, that old expression. I believe that I'm in the great Gordon Baranko, remember Judge Baranko, did that a lot in the community, right? So I'd be happy to carry that mantle if I could. I have no problem with that at all.
Wonderful.
If you-
Which is another reason for you to be on the
Yeah.
bench.
Thank you.
Yes, I was surprised to see that you've been a temporary judge for 5 years.
Yes.
So that doesn't seem like it serves, not your fault.
We gotta talk to the
How
government
it,
about that.
yeah, how it serves the community to have that position unfilled, and then again, how were you appointed?
Great question. Let me explain that. 2 ways to be a judge in California. You put an application in with the governor, and she or he in this instance, decides whether or not they want to appoint you down the road. Okay. The other way is you do what I'm doing now when a judge retires. You put your name in, you go through all this fun stuff that you're going to go through, and try to get folks to believe in you, believe in your mission, and do that. Now, the temporary judge, any attorney, Paul could do it tomorrow if he wanted to. Any attorney in good standing after 10 years can apply to the presiding judge and go through certain certifications and get vetted and whatnot, and then be appointed to help serve and help out. So I did that while I was working full-time, right? So I would take either a day off or take my afternoon calendar or whatever and go do that. So I would handle different matters during that time. After a while, I was like, I really want to do this full-time. I really like this. And I talked to a lot of presiding judges, a lot of folks like Paul. And if you look at my website, a lot of the presiding judges past and present support me. And I felt I had a knack for it and I could help people. So that's what I did.
So is the position that you held, was it a vacancy?
The
or-
temporary judge?
Yeah.
No,
or you
there's a
kind of
pool.
fill into,
There's a pool, like
Okay.
say if all of you are judges and you're on vacation, you're sick, you know, whatever, they would say, hey, we need coverage in department, whatever, go do it. Right? And that happens a lot. It's a big deal. Yes, sir.
I'm not a resident of Alameda County, so this will be a freewheeling question. But I'm just curious whether fair election practices or judicial ethics allow you to identify and challenge and out your opponent. I don't know who this
You mean
bill
what I-
reference
That's
was,
about what I just said.
about who
Oh,
he's
yeah.
aligning himself with and all that
Oh,
other
yeah.
stuff.
Let me-
Can you just
Expand on
be
that?
forthright and
Yes,
tell
absolutely.
us about that?
Okay. Okay.
So glad you asked.
All right, thank you for the question. Okay. All right.
I don't want you to breach no ethics.
Oh, no. Of all of us, I'm the one who will.
Right.
Okay.
no.
As a temporary judge, as a judge, as a commissioner, as a judicial candidate, you are never, ever, ever, ever supposed to divulge your political views, fealty to a political issue or politician, ever. Why? Because people have the perception at a minimum that you're partial, right? So say for example, if my opponent divulged his fealty to the existing DA, well, that's his right to vote for whoever he wants to, and I support that, right? But to a defense attorney who may come in front of that person down the road, they're gonna say, how can my client get a fair trial if I know this judge votes for this defendant, or, excuse me, this DA, or supports the DA? Same with the public defender, right? Same if it was, you know, whatever issue or whatever politician in there. So my opponent. I'm still a lawyer. My opponent, in an open forum on video, it's on YouTube and you can see it on my website, divulged the fact that he had voted for and supported the DA. That's a no-no. That's an ethical violation, period. If you saw the subsequent publications that came out after that,
Yes.
Doris Cordell, for example,
Yes.
slammed that. The Mercury News most recently did an article on that. The Bay Guardian newspaper did 2 or 3 articles on it. You don't do that. That's the one thing. There's 5, but that's the one thing the judges miss one. Okay? Does that help?
Thank you.
Okay. Yes.
I just wanted to mention that I think that your opponent was playing to the audience,
Yeah.
because it was that kind of audience that was there for the DA.
But you don't get a whoopsie or a mulligan. You don't. You know, it's
No,
you don't.
it was a rookie move.
No, time out. I have to be aggressive on this. He had run for election in 2020 against Elena Condis, who's now Judge Condis, was on my team, was me, right, and lost. At that time, he had to go through take a video on ethics and sign off an oath that he would follow it, right? Then in 2023, he was going to be a commissioner. He had to take an oath again and take a whole week's-long ethics course, of which you can't even do. Then, in
Did he
this
pass
election,
those classes?
I can either confirm or deny that, sir. But then the third time, right, when this election came, he had to take the video again and sign off on it.
So he was strictly playing to the audience.
I can't get in his head, and I really don't want to, all right? I'm just saying the actions, yes, sir.
Michael, you had been asked a number of very substantive questions here tonight.
Yes.
Would it be appropriate for me to ask you a softball question?
Yes.
So it's a two-parter.
Yeah.
One of them is, hypothetically, if people in this room who are impressed with you and would like to support your candidacy took a selfie with you at the end of the Q&A here today and posted it to their Facebook and said, please support Michael Johnson, would that be an appropriate use of their personal resources?
Yes, sir.
Number two, my follow-up is more open-ended. What other things could people in this room do to support your candidacy?
Thank you. First of all, please visit my website. If you have any questions, please send me questions through the website. Look at my Facebook page as well as my Instagram page. Tell every friend that you know, everyone in your network and connection, your neighbors, your coffee clutch, your sister circle, your golf foursome, whatever, about what you saw tonight and what you think of me, and hopefully that you are supporting me and voting for me. I'd appreciate that. I think also just get out there, and if folks ask you at all, I love the selfie picture. I'm definitely down for that. Thank you. But if you feel so inclined, in addition to voting, which is the most important thing, to support my campaign, please do so as well. Okay? Any questions? I could answer this all night. None?
Well, make sure everyone.
He has a question.
Oh, that's a question?
Was it first? Sorry?
Oh, hey, come forward.
To go to places like East Oakland or like nonprofits or group of people that want to hear from you.
Yep.
If we invited, can you go, or
Yep.
we need to have it at VIP?
I don't consider myself a VIP, but yeah, absolutely, not a problem.
Great.
So,
Dana,
please
for a
feel
second
free
before
to
you conclude.
hang around
Yeah.
and.
Okay.
Thank you.
There's
He
another-
has one question.
Okay,
For
a question.
Dana, yeah, it's a comment,
Yeah.
and I will be brief.
Thank you.
The audience has been very gentle. But when this is my colleague and sometime business partner.
Yes, we work together and, yeah.
What they're gonna want to hear are things that are most on their minds about BART. You're gonna have to address the safety issue. You're gonna have to be on that one. And we're gonna have to be on the cleanliness issue. You mentioned that one.
Yeah.
The people who ride BART, what is most important in their minds, and that's what you're gonna have to be laser on.
Yeah.
And you know I'm a fan. I'm with you
Yeah,
all the way.
thank
I say,
you. And I-
endorse.
You're only gonna get a minute or two
Yeah.
in these forums.
Yes, and I want people to tell me, because it really is about you. It's not about necessarily the people that are forced to ride BART, it's the people we wanna bring back to BART. We wanna change the perception, and the only way to change the perception is to make it real, that you're addressing those issues. Even if you don't get 100%, can you get like 50%, 80% cleanliness and, yeah.
Safety.
And you mentioned another key point, Dana, the transitory development. And a lot of people who are not in the biz, they don't know what TOD means, right? And so, we kind of need to say, it means stations that are more inviting. Because you kind of spoke to that it's a destination, right?
Yeah.
It's a place you want to be.
Yeah,
It's welcoming and it's safe.
and thank you both, because I'm gonna.
We're on a committee. We're getting her ready for that large
And
audience.
they both, Henry was the executive director of ABAG, and now he's the executive director of the Coliseum Complex.
But that's not what distinguishes me.
City manager.
What's
I
your
was a
favorite?
city manager of Oakland, longer than anybody in Oakland's history. Not city administrator, I was the city manager.
City manager. Everybody loves Henry, because he's all that.
So everyone, there's more food, more drink. Feel free to linger and talk. Get your selfies.
And get
with
the
candidates.
selfies.
Get your
Yeah.
selfies. And get more food, get more drink, have more conversation. Make